we have Carissa Smith. Carissa is a dear friend of mine. She is an Air Force veteran, and she served from 2009 to 2014. She was the first woman in her family to serve in the United States military. She is currently pursuing her bachelor, or her MSW and MBA dual degree at Carlow University. Carissa.
This is the story of true love and car insurance. So, in 2010, Biloxi, Mississippi is where I was doing my technical training to be a financial manager. And that was the first time that I met my friend, Chris. The way that I met her was my roommate came running into our room and said, "There's a woman down in the laundry room and she is in formal attire and she's doing laundry." And because it was Biloxi, Mississippi, and there was nothing else to do, I went down to check it out. So I saw this beautiful, blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman in her little black dress, and I didn't actually say anything, just observed and left. Whenever I got to my first base, though, we ended up in the same section. And so we started to develop a friendship. I found out that the always prepared Chris was doing her laundry to have it done for the weekend so that she was prepared for the next week because she was going out on Friday night. Chris would only be wearing pink if she could not wash out the blood stains from her enemies out of her white hood. And I'm kind of a Barbie girl in my Barbie world. So it was not like a friendship upon our personalities. However, we ended up being friends. We decided that we were going to have a little Thanksgiving. We rented the hotel room on base and invited the guys that we worked with. Chris had all of her recipes down to a perfect science, and I was her sous chef. But throughout our time in the military, we ended up at 2 different bases, but we stayed in touch through basically the instant messenger of the Air Force. And what happened, she ended up, was her husband deployed, and she was in Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, North Carolina, and because she was having a hard time and missing him, even though he was finding his next wife, I went and visited to cheer her up. And the way that we're taught in the United States Air Force to maintain proper mental health is hygiene and nutrition. So I cleaned her house and cooked her food. But while I was there, I was trying to be a good friend. And I was taking out the trash for her. And in North Carolina, rural North Carolina, they don't have a garbage man come to the house, so you have to take it yourself. So I was driving my 2009 Toyota Corolla, and I was driving past her brand new BMW, and I rolled over a can of blue spray paint. So there was blue spray paint splattered all over her gunmetal BMW. And me, being the earnest heart that I am, I said, I will get the paint off before she comes home. And so I took a scrub brush to her BMW. So I thought it looked okay until it dried. And when she came home, it looked like a dozen cats had attacked her BMW. So she went to bed without talking to me. And she eventually, I went back home after we discussed financial issues, deductibles, things like that. And I think that the moral of the story, though, is that she valued our friendship enough that the couple $1,000s of damages that I did not affect us to the point where she didn't lose trust or faith in me. She just knows that that's something that happens when you're friends with girls. So, I think it's really important that she values me so much, and that the worth and human dignity that she put into me, I think really changed the trajectory of my life, which is why I'm getting my MSW. And I think I changed the trajectory of hers because she's an insurance broker. Thank you.
Chris. Next, we have Lori Kubling. Lori is an Army veteran. And Lori's story tonight is going to be amazing, but she is the fourth of 5 children. Her mother, who is 92 years old, is in the audience tonight. Happy birthday. She has a master's in education from Slippery Rock and social work from the University of Pittsburgh, and she has published a 2-book work of fiction. So, Lori, it's all yours.
So I drew some pictures to help me out. They're not very good. Okay. I met a man from New Zealand once at a bar called the Mad Dog Saloon. A traveling gent with a strange accent in the heart of Hong Kong, Kowloon. The barkeeper poured an ale and a shot, proclaiming himself a displaced Scot, but happy to be in the South China Sea, serving up laggers and shots. Oh, I forgot my picture. Okay. Australia, New Zealand. This is a depiction of the Mad Dog Saloon. Okay. But a mad dog, nonetheless. And illustration of China, Hong Kong is south of China, and Korea. And those little funny blue lines is the ocean, or a sea. I think it's a sea. Okay, back to my story. To a fishing village I went the next day on a flat bottom boat, that is, that zoomed on the bay. Fancy illustration. That most I'm a lot taller, but the locals were smaller, which made me feel great. Another fancy illustration. Me tall, there I am, and that's true. They were. You know, it's cool about that. But anyway. Okay, on to the stores in a bustling hive, to window shop along the drive. I saw a jade store of tables and more. So of course I bought a Swiss Army knife. Jade table. Back in the room, I gazed down far, startled to see a huge Snickers bar. Rolling along a name, a 20-minute refrain, a bar of chocolate along the cars. And in case you ever figured out, it was on the top of the bus. Here's the illustration. Just be clear about it. Okay. To Mad Dogs I return, so grub to try. Where's my dog? Hoping to talk with the Kiwi guy. kiwi is a fruit, but not to be found as I look around. So I sat alone and finished my fries. I left the heart of Hong Kong, Kowloon, and a bar called the Mad Dog Saloon, and memories made a store full of jade. Goodbye to Hong Kong and Kowloon. So the reason that I was in Hong Kong is I was stationed in Korea. This was from 92 to 93. I had joined the Army back in 1989. At the time, I had a teaching job that was just not what I thought it was. It was in Camden University. It was a little rough. I don't think I was ready for that. I had been substitute teaching for a while, and I had taken the military entrance exam the year before just to keep my options open in case the teaching didn't work out, which it didn't. So, and I had done really well on the test. I scored in the top 3% of whoever was taking it back then. And I found myself in Fort McClellan, in Alabama, in the fall of 1989. And you know, I had always liked being outside. But as a child, I played Army in the woods with the boys in the neighborhood. In fact, when I was very young, I used to sleep with a rubber knife and a plastic gun. I was like 4 years old. I don't know what was wrong with me, but anyway, that's what I did. One night, I couldn't find my plastic gun, and I yelled down the steps to my dad, "Dad, I can't find my gun!" "Oh, just sleep with your knife." My dad said, "Oh, yeah, it was all right. That was my favorite knife." So there I am at Fort McClellan in the fall of '89, and I really actually liked it. We were busy. It was 20-hour days, you know, I got to wear a uniform, you know, once in a while, eventually we were carrying a gun. It was, you know, fortunately most of the time I had a flash muzzle on it, so it wasn't really that dangerous. And I developed some friendships. But things kind of went south about 5 weeks in. Somebody I developed a friendship with, we got into an argument, and it seemed like it was really dumb, like arguments between friends can be. Well, I didn't realize the kind of patch she came from, which was very different than mine. I think I had a pretty stable childhood, other than sleeping with me on the night. Nobody got hurt at that time. But unfortunately for her, it was a really big deal to have a friend, to have a fight with a friend. And she got her wrist. And, you know, it wasn't bad. She wasn't really hurt. But when you do something like that, they call it damage to on property in the Army, and she was discharged. And so this did impact me very negatively for a while. And it wasn't as, that much into it. But I had signed an agreement, so then I did graduate from basic training, and I moved on to AIT, Advanced Individual Training, and to be a missile technician, which was a 5-month training course. Unfortunately, I did get into what I call a bad relationship, and things went from bad to worse. But I also managed to graduate from Advanced Individual Training to become an official Land Combat Support System Test Specialist. Otherwise known as a missile technician. I mean, that was kind of complicated, but long, drawn up. But I graduated and I was stationed at Redstone Arsenal, which is where the missile school was, which is where I had gone to AIT. But almost shortly after I got there, my uncle passed away. So we're like 7 months into I'm 7 months into a 4-year commitment, and I'm thinking, how am I going to make it through this? You know, I was beginning to get a little bit of a sour taste about the military, even though all my life I didn't picture myself in an Army uniform. Really, I did. That's what I did. But, you know, as I'm inclined to do, I just did what I was supposed to do, and things did get better. But you know when they actually got better was whenever I helped someone who was originally born in another country, but enlisted in the United States Army. We worked together in missile school. Her first language was not English, it was Spanish. And she was having trouble scheduling getting a flight back home to California to be with her family on leave. And so I helped her out with that, and we became friends and some other things. I helped her with sending a letter back home and different. And I started to feel better about myself, is what happened then. So I started to work harder on my physical training, and I ended up doing very well on that. I got up to 276, which in the Army back then, I'm not sure what it is now, but that was 300 was the max, 180 was the minimum. So then at the range, I hit 39 out of 40, which is expert. Eventually, got things together, pulled myself together, whatever, and I was promoted the specialist for Sector 4. Even though it wasn't always a fun time in the Army, I became a better person. I wouldn't have missed it for the world. I just believe I became a better person. I really wouldn't miss it. But that's how I ended up in Korea and therefore in Hong Kong, where there were so many neat things going on. And we're, not really in Hong Kong, but in that little fishing village, I was one of the tallest people. That's my story. Thank you for listening. I'll see my illustrations because I know it. Where's my hat on?
There you go. Thanks so much, Lori. I used to play Army, and most of my 4 children, they all play Army. I don't think they play Navy or Marines, do they? Next we have Dr. Elaine Berkowitz. Dr. Berkowitz is also an Army veteran. And, when you talk about being in the military and serving your country and the women that came before you, she is certainly one of those who we, the younger generation, stand on the shoulders of giants. So Elaine's talk tonight is called "It's 130 Degrees Under This Helmet."
Born and raised in the Burg. I've enjoyed all there is to do here in Pittsburgh, and there's a lot of post-military things that I'm involved with all of them. I enjoy showing Pittsburgh off to my friends, both civilian and military, those I met on deployments, those I met on medical missions. I love to show Pittsburgh off. I joined the U.S. Army Reserves at age 30 as a dental assistant in 1974. Became a dentist. No, the Army did not pay my education. And then I worked my way up to lieutenant colonel. I will talk about dentistry and the military to whoever wants to listen at any time. I spent 38 great years in the military with 4 deployments and numerous medical missions around the world. Yes, your calculations are correct. I retired in 2012 at age 68. Woo! My first deployment was to Q West, we called it Key West, Iraq, in 2005. The Q was a shortened version of the name of the town that was outside of our base. Now, please don't ask me to spell it or to pronounce it. It was a small base of 5,000 civilian and military people, and it came from many, many countries. I was the highest ranking female and the oldest person on the base. It was the middle of nowhere. There were no buildings for the snipers to hide, and it was fairly safe at that time. After dark, no lights. No lights were allowed. No street lights, No lights in buildings unless there were no windows. No car lights, no truck lights, and no flashlights. The Army didn't want to call attention to a small base without the proper defense. I had evenings off unless I had a dental emergency. So every evening after chow, and by the way, the food was delicious. Every deployment I had, delicious. I'm not kidding. So then after chow, I went to the state-of-the-art gym and game room. After exercising off the delicious food, I played Scrabble. I liked the game, and I drew other people in, and we had a really nice evening. And the time made the time go faster as well. One evening, I had driven to the gym. And when I decided to leave, one of the other officers who had his quarters near mine decided to come with me. There was a sandstorm, and if you've never been in a sandstorm, oh boy. Seeing more than just the front of my Humvee was impossible. I drove slowly with my head out the window, and he drove with me with his head out the window. We had a short ride that I had from memory back to our living quarters. And during the 3-mile-an-hour drive, we were very nervous, but he wouldn't admit it. I was so done. I was a wreck. No lights and all sand. At one point, my passenger said to me, "I feel like I'm driving with Mr. Magoo." Now, do you remember Mr. Magoo? He was a nearsighted fictional cartoon character in the 1940s who would not admit to his problem. Finally made it as far as I was prepared to drive, somewhat comfortable, not very, and felt our way back to our barracks, to our tin cans that we lived in. The next morning, after all had cleared, I went and saw where I had parked. I almost fainted. I was very close to a very deep drop-off, and talk about a dry mouth. 130 degrees or more every day in Iraq. I was informed it was dry heat. Well, dry heat my foot. It was wet under my helmet every day. As a kid, I hated summer camp. I didn't like the rules. I didn't like a certain way you had to make your bed. I didn't like anything. I didn't like the food. But for some reason, I adored all 38 years in the Army. As a dentist, I was deployed alone, not with a unit. Dentists, physicians, and nurse practitioners were taken alone and added to a unit in the theater, which means at the location. They kind of forgot those that were deployed alone, and I didn't have family, but I had many friends that kept in touch. The unit that I was in Pittsburgh deployed shortly after I did, and they had a big send-off, and they got correspondence, and a box of goodies, and they never forgot them, and they had to be coming back party too, but those of us that went alone, it was kind of hurtful. On one of my deployments to Kosovo, it's many people pronounce it Kosovo, but the Albanians prefer Kosovo. It snowed every day for 4 months, day and night. You couldn't see the barrack steps, you just sat down and slid down on the snow pile. One of my friends sent me cleats because all the soldiers were falling, breaking their ankles, and the Army would not order cleats for us. Everybody was getting hurt, not me. My friend is in the audience tonight. She's still making sure that I'm safe. Another episode in Iraq seems all of us older soldiers were housed in the tin cans or rooms real close to the trucks that held the toilets and the showers. So that at night we wouldn't have to walk far to go to the bathroom. It's like a half a mile or more in some areas. One night, while I was brushing my teeth, the gal that didn't like bugs and other creepy crawlers saw an entire family of strange-looking bugs walking by me. Bugs I had never seen before and even know that they ever existed. Very strange-looking creatures. I got over my queasiness early. Never did see the spiders that were as big as dinner plates, but they were there, I was told. I decided to write a book because everybody I knew said, why don't you write a book about your experiences? So I wrote it, Live Life, Love Country. I had Amazon selling it until my publisher folded, so now I carry it around myself. I gave PowerPoint presentations to all kinds of groups and hope to sell a few copies and always carry some with me. Civilians can't imagine what barracks look like, what some of these third world countries look like. Very interesting to see their reaction when I talk to civilian groups. I've had an amazing life, both civilian and military, traveling the world. My favorite planter in my front yard are my camouflage boots. Neighbors all stop to take a look. I am military, I am patriotic, obviously, and I'm American all the way. God bless our military, past and present. God bless the United States of America.
Amen.
And God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. Next, we have Malvina Jackson. Malvina is a United States Air Force veteran. We have any Air Force in the room? Go blue, I think is what you guys say. Malvina has a bachelor's degree of science in business management from Carlo, and she currently works for PNC Bank, where she volunteers with the Grow Up Great program within PNC that focuses on early childhood development. Malvina's story tonight is called, How Did I Get Here? Malvina?
So, this is the story of a 17-year-old girl from Pittsburgh, PA. And I'm gonna narrow it down, Wilkinsburg to be exact. So, anybody who knows anything from Wilkinsburg, we have our fair share of, senseless shootings and things of that nature. So, in a sense, I'm tagged hood, but I am educated. So, after high school, I felt like I needed a break. Although I had, full grasp of colleges and things of that nature, I wanted a break from school. So I enlisted into the Air Force. My very first assigned station, I was placed dead smack of a Western movie. That's the best way that I can describe it. Basic training, technical school, plus some Army training with athletics, everything was a breeze. No problems whatsoever. My next assignment, I was excited, nervous at the same time, not knowing what to expect. I flew into Denver, Colorado. Was told once we got there, we would have to take a separate flight to Cheyenne, Wyoming. This plane, this shuttle plane, and I use that loosely because literally it can seat maybe 15 people, but you had to leave space in the back for our luggage. We got out of FE1, it was pitch black, it was dark, it was very dark and rainy and cold. That night, really couldn't see anything out of any windows or anything like that. So once we got into the van and head to the base, coming from here, we have hills. You know when you hit a hill. I can tell everything was just flat. In my head, I'm like, okay. Again, not too sure what I'm going to come up against. Next day, well, actually, we finally reached the base. Everybody gets dropped off. I'm tired, go to sleep. Next day, get up. Coffee, food, post office, things like that. After I check into my station, my unit, to figure out, different things and where I'm going to be. We had some time off, get acclimated with the base, get acclimated with the city. Everything on there is flat. Once we linked up, I linked up with a few friends that I went through training with. We leave base, and I see tumbleweeds rolling down the street. Again, I'm from the city. I'm not used to this. They had weird animals, meerkats, popping up out of place. Didn't know what those were, so get off base. One day it's so long. Or like me, that's where I want to go. I want to go to the mall. Malls have places where I can eat and I can shop. That's what I thought. Get to the mall. Everything's flat. Biggest attraction. JCPenney on one, movie theater on the next. No in between. Okay, I need food. So, we're on a mission for food. I see real life cowboys. I'm talking big hats, okay? Big belt buckles. Buckles like this little buckle. This is nothing. This will tell everybody that I didn't belong. That's just the first thing. The tight jeans, like the younger generation wear nowadays, that's like really, really tight pants. It's an everyday thing for them. Tight flannel tops. Tight flannel tops. Everything's something. Everything is different from me. I'm still trying to process this. In my head, I just keep saying, how did I get here? Not sure. So, gotta keep in mind, there are saloons, swinging doors. I'm not used to this. Coming from the city too, really haven't been exposed to trailers. Everyone has trailers there. It's different. Flatlands. Only good thing that I can truly say that I did pick up is, my boots don't have the spurs. And mine are more fashionably set, like it kind of goes with it, but nowadays I'm in my head and I can't believe that I even wore these. This is a put on, be cute for a hot second and take them off. They are not walking around everyday shoes. Just put it out there. So, these are my wonderful tokens and my reminder of Cheyenne, Wyoming. Thank you.
Thanks, Mal. I love those boots.
I know.
I wear them. Next we have Dr. Laura Strong. Dr. Laura Strong is an Army veteran, and I know we're like rolling deep today. She has her doctorate in curriculum and instruction from IUP, and I believe you're also an author, aren't you? Didn't you write a book? She did. Her talk tonight is titled Sweat, Snot, and Tears.
So I'm going to tell you a story tonight about a typical Army training day. And the reason I chose to tell this story is I feel like we can all relate, even if you weren't in the Army, just in life. Maybe you've had a day that started out good but didn't end so well. So that's what I'm going to talk about. And I just want to see by show of hands, has anyone ever served as a cadet? No one. No cadets in the house. Okay, you're lucky. You're lucky because what I learned in ROTC Advanced Camp the summer of 1989 in the sweltering heat in Fort Riley, Kansas, is being a cadet is like being a zero, okay? You don't really have any authority, and no one really, any enlisted person does not actually respect you. They cannot render a salute without a snicker, and no officer is really going to treat you like you know very much at all, because the assumption is you're here to learn. Well, I thought I knew a little bit better. I had 3 dots on my hat. Yeah, I was a cadet with 3 dots. I know you don't know that rank. It's okay. We all got paid 85 paid anyway. But my warrior buddy, he had 1 dot on his hat, so I knew a little bit more about things. I was prep service. So on this particular day, we are out on the range doing training. And training can look a lot of different ways, but this day we're wearing miles equipment. That's an acronym for heavier stuff all over you with sensors, right? If your sensor goes off, you die. Not really, but that's how it works. So about 10 hours into this day of 120-degree weather in the shade, we had low crawl, on our elbows. We had maneuvered around things. We were leaders. We were followers. We were all the things. We were hot. Did I mention it was hot? So finally, the day seems like it's going to be over. But that miles equipment, that was pretty new. And we were told, you cannot lose a piece of that equipment. It's unforgivable. It can't happen. So we're heading back to the Deuce and a Halfs. That's a 2.5-ton truck if you're a civilian. And they load about 50 bodies onto each truck. So we had about 100 of us in the field. And my warrior buddy, this short guy from Hawaii, he says, I'll get us a good seat, because there's only 2 benches fitting about 20 people, and then 30 people have to cram on there and just hope to find a spot to squash into. So he ran on ahead and he got us a seat right up near the back of the cab. I get up to the truck, he passed the seat, come on up. So as I'm climbing over the tailgate, I can feel the temperature go up 10 degrees because the truck is covered in a heavy canvas and the heat is trapped under there and it's even hotter. So I get up there, I sit down next to him, sweat's dripping in my eyes. I don't feel so good, I feel a little nauseous. But I turn to look and there's maybe 30 other cadets climbing over the tailgate. Pretty soon, the back is nearly full and all I could think about was, I cannot wait to get a shower. I can't wait to get all this stuff off. And then it happened. Somebody yelled, hey, they lost a piece of equipment out on the range. And I just thought, no, because I knew what that meant. We can't leave. We cannot leave until that equipment is found. We also couldn't get off the truck. They said stay. They took about six cadet detail to go out there and sweep the range to find that piece of equipment. Oh my God, the time passed so slow. It was standing still. My buddy, he's chatting away. I wish he would shut up. And everything's dripping through my eyes. I was starting to see sparks and spots. And, everybody's kind of squashed and squished. And I couldn't really breathe very deeply. And he said, you okay? I said, shut up, don't talk to me. And he said, what's wrong? And I really couldn't answer because I felt like I was going to pass out. I knew that something was wrong. Maybe it was heat stroke. Maybe it was heat exhaustion. I knew about those things that never happened to me before. But I felt like I could not take much more. So I started to go as I'm looking at the back of the truck where the opening is and maybe freedom, I don't know. But there's a whole bunch of bodies between me and that. He asked me one more question and I shot up out of that seat ugh, that's what I did, right? And I stepped on heads and bodies and faces and equipment, and it did not matter. I had to get off that truck. I got to the end, I threw half my body over, I started to throw up, sweat, snot, and tears just pouring out of me. And everybody's cussing at me in the background, and as I'm sure this is it, because I've reached my limit, I looked up and here comes that cadet with that piece of equipment that was lost. But now I'm embarrassed and I feel weak. And I told you this story because it helped shape my character. Maybe you're thinking, how did it shape your character? Because I wondered that myself. But I thought that was my limit, right? I thought that was all I could take and that I couldn't take anymore. But you know what? I did. I got through that day and I did the same thing the next day, although I didn't throw up. And I'm sure all of you have done a whole lot more than you ever thought you could because you've all had moments where you thought, this is all I can do. This is the most I can do. That's how it shaped my character.
Next we have Savannah Jimenez. Savannah is a mother, a daughter, a sister, an aunt, and one of my very dear friends. She's a Navy veteran, and she's also a master gardener. So Savannah is a woman of many talents. Tonight, she's going to share with you a story titled, Really Freaking Far From Home. Savannah?
All right, so this story starts off with 25-year-old scrawny, small-town girl who never strayed far from home. And she is on her first port visit in Bahrain. Now, for those who don't know where Bahrain is an island country situated in the Persian Gulf in the Western Asia. Or, as I say, really freaking far from home. The naval base HMS Jafar is there, located outside of this base is a avenue called Shabab Avenue. And, well, us military call it American Alley. And you'll see why. So, in American Alley, you'll find Dairy Queen, Hardee's, Starbucks, Burger King, and, well, you get my point. At the time of this port visit, I had only been stationed with my command for a very short while. So not only was I far from home, I didn't know a lot of people. So my only buddy was Seaman Apprentice Reagan. Now, Reagan was from Boston, 7 years younger than I, and a Spitfire, don't mess with me, sailor. And then there's me, shy, doesn't know anyone, avoids drama, and do as you're told, Seaman Apprentice. So we find ourselves at a Western bar where Reagan ends up really enjoying herself. And I, the designated non-drinker, doesn't have any alcohol at all. So it's approaching curfew. So I gather myself and Reagan up and we start to stumble back to the ship. The second we step off the hotel's property, we're quickly approached by a man who's grabbing at Reagan's purse. Now, this man is 5'8", stout, dressed in very dark clothing. And at this point, Reagan, who's not very stable on her feet, is in full panic mode, screaming and cussing. And I snap into full defense mode, right? And I get in between Reagan and this man. And he's saying that Reagan has stolen a mobile phone and he's the security for the bar. Now, I know that Reagan didn't steal a phone because I was with her all night. So, I want you to picture something that gives you a vast amount of anxiety. Okay? Now multiply that by 100. That is my level of anxiety. I am in a foreign country, really freaking far from home. Curfew is about over in 45 minutes. My Liberty Buddy is wasted, and I'm not standing too firm on my feet either, if you get my drift. And we have this man who's trying to steal Reagan's purse. My adrenaline has kicked in at this point. Pause there. I gotta have an extra come up on stage for me. So this is my daughter. She's gonna act as Reagan. So my adrenaline has kicked in at this point, and I instruct Reagan, who is stumbling on her feet, to put her purse on her shoulder. And I slip my arm through the strap, grab onto her arm, and I drag her across the street. All right, so we're across the street, making our way to the naval base. And this man is behind us, pestering us, screaming something in Arabic and passerby. And I am trying to get Reagan to walk quicker, and I am trying to get assistance from any military personnel that would help. And not one person would be willing to help. And I mean not one person. So, anxiety is getting higher. So after what seemed like miles, we have the front gate to the base in our sights. I tell Reagan to run. He's on our backs, and he's yelling at a group of taxi drivers outside of the naval base. And they seem to be getting really upset because they all start getting riled up. And they look like they're going to start coming after us. So of course I'm freaking out at this point. And luckily, the guards at the gate of the naval base see this and come assist. So, take a deep breath. At this point, I'm relieved. So I start telling the security guard what happened. So of course, wanted to make sure that, Reagan didn't have a mobile phone, and guess what? She didn't have a mobile phone. So they insist that we go back to the station and make a statement. Now, okay, I understand this, but we have 20 minutes till curfew. Now, if those who have been in the Navy and been stationed somewhere else and they get a liberty report, you know that you have a curfew. And if you don't make that curfew, well, you're in trouble. Or so I thought. So, anxiety is now through the roof. I'm a new sailor, and I've already screwed up. I've let my underage Liberty buddy get wasted, and I, the designated non-drinker, had several beers. My senior chief is going to kill me. Yep, going to captain's mast, my Navy career is over. Shore Patrol informs us that they let senior chief know the situation. Yep, done for. Curfew has since expired, and while if we were both in the Cinderella story, we both would have turned into pumpkins. So, on the bus, back to the ship, Reagan begins to complain she's not feeling well. I tell her under my breath, as a mother would her unruly child in public, if you throw up on this bus, you are done for. So as we get off the bus, she runs to the side of the pier and just heaves. Other sailors are passing, laughing, saying, oh, looks like somebody had a little too much fun. And all I kept thinking was, what happens to someone who goes to the captain's mess? Once she finishes, I assist her down the pier to the quarterdeck, and I tell her, you are going to cross this quarterdeck, not say a word, and not look at anyone. And as I see us getting closer and closer to the finish line, there, standing on the quarterdeck, is Senior Chief. Hands on his hips, laughing hysterically. He looks at me and says, you okay, Jimenez? Yep, sure thing, Senior Chief. Have a good night. And as I'm walking toward me, I hear him holler, see you at cleaning stations. The next morning, I was sure I was going to Captain's Mess. Cleaning stations came and went. The workday came and went. And this seaman apprentice came to realize that things are not as serious as I thought they would be in the military.
No drinks yet.
So our last, but certainly not least, tonight, we have Cindy Butler Perry. Cindy served in the Army Reserves from 1990 to 2010. She did 3 deployments under Operation Enduring Freedom and has a master's in professional counseling and an undergrad in psychology, both from Carlo. Tonight, her talk is titled Burn Pit. Cindy?
August 1990, me and a bus full of recruits pulled up to Fort Dix, New Jersey. We were ready for basic training. We arrived at the reception station. They were waiting for us. We're here. We're here. Ooh, ooh. They had everything laid out for us. It was croissants, donuts, confetti, balloons. They rolled out the red carpet. It was a ticker tape parade. That didn't happen. Bunch of drill sergeants got on that bus. Get off my bus. Get off my bus now. I learned early on, drill sergeants are very possessive. They own everything. My bus. Get off my grass. Get out my parents. But here I am. I made it. I have arrived. I've been in the Army now. The one we're pulling the plow. I don't give a bitch if I never get rich. I'm in the Army now. Da, 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 da. So I got assigned my basic training unit. Uniform, check. Boots, check. Web gear, check. Mop gear, check. Protective mask, check. Steel pot, check. Soft cap, check. Bunk beds, check. Battle buddy, check, check. Found myself being pushed to the outer limits for basic training. Found myself proudly climbing ropes and mountains, shooting aspirates and firing weapons, low crawling the length of a football field. Found myself rough marching in full battle rattle. I became a mean, lean fighting machine. Army taught me everything I needed to know to survive. After basic training, I moved on to AIT. That was also at Fort Dix, New Jersey. AIT was preparing me to become a member of the United States Army Corps of Transportation, boy. It was pretty uneventful. Until they gave your girl the keys to auto vehicles, dog. The Army taught me how to drive the military tractor trailer, the M915A1 and the A2. 16 gears. People pushers, deuce and a half, Hemmet wrappers, Hemmet cranes, and various other military vehicles. The Army taught me everything I needed to know to survive. I understood my mission. So after AIT, I moved on to my first unit, 630th Transportation Company in Washington, PA. I showed up early, uniform fresh and pressed, boots polished and shined. I was standing tall and looking good. Had a chance to meet some of my fellow unit members. How you doing? How you doing? You look nice. How you doing? No, I'm driving first class, Butler Perry. How you doing? And then our first sergeant took command of that formation.
Company, platoon, attention.
So in short, we received 3 roll orders. We had to move out to Fort Dix, New Jersey for training in support of Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm. And the lockdown begins now. So here I am, back at Fort Dix, New Jersey. I'm home away from home. I'm back. Woo-hoo, did you miss me? How you doing? You look nice. So after several weeks of training, The entire unit was standing tall and looking good as we moved out to the flight line, ready to board the plane to Kuwait. I was feeling good. I was feeling confident. I was ready until it was time for me to get on that plane. I'm not getting on that plane. So I didn't even want to get on that plane. They're trying to send us over there to kill us.
Get on the plane, bud.
That's my squad leader, Sergeant Nemo. He had a very deep voice. He was like E.F. Hutton. When he spoke, everybody listened. Sergeant Nemo, I get on that plane. They're trying to send us over there to kill us.
Get on the plane, bud. Ain't nobody trying to see you over to kill you. Get on the plane.
And then it hit me. I'm a mean fighting machine. Army taught me everything I needed to know to survive. I can do this. I'm ready. Let's go. So the flight over to Kuwait was long and uneventful. Some soldiers rambled. Some watched movies. And some just chitter-chattered. I talked for 18 hours. So we landed in Kuwait. Jump off the plane, get on the bus. We arrived at Dhahran, Saudi Arabia. Camp Jack, 22nd Support Command. Tent City. We get out of the bus, we're looking around. Oh my God, it's so pretty over here. Everything is so beautiful. Look at the sky. Wow, you can see the stars so clearly over here. And then the crowd roars, ooh, ah, ooh, ah, ooh, ah. What's that smell? So then we head up to the DFAC for our first breakfast in country. What's that smell? We leave the DFAC, we go back to Camp Jack, get ready for our first convoy. What's that smell? Come back from our first convoy, get ready to take our shower in our newly built Petticoat Junction shower. What is that smell? And then we were told, well, you know, over here, Saudis are different than American. They don't have a waste management system set up or anything. They're different. They might burn maybe some household items, maybe a couch or some leftover food, or maybe it's just, you know, used toys, things they don't need anymore. It's not a big deal. Soldiers were becoming sick. Soldiers were becoming ill. Soldiers were going on sick call. Some soldiers were written off as, he just doesn't want to do any work. He's so lazy. Look at him. Mission complete. We head back to Washington, PA. Turn a corner. Every pole and every tree was adorned with beautiful yellow ribbons. Da-da-da-da-da. Tie a yellow ribbon round the old oak tree. It's been 3 long years. Do you still want me? If I don't see a ribbon round the old oak tree, I'll stay on the bus. Forget about us. Put the blame on me if I don't see a yellow ribbon round the old oak tree. Yeah. And it was beautiful. And we appreciate the support. So now we're back at home on record. Soldiers are getting reunited with family, reunited with neighbors, reuniting with friends. How you doing, bestie? Did you miss me? You look nice. Reuniting with that baby that was 4 months old when we left. Now that baby's a doctor, lawyer, making candlesticks in the back of a Mercedes Benz. But soldiers were still becoming sick. Soldiers were still becoming ill. Soldiers were dying. Soldiers were being diagnosed with mysterious diseases. Soldiers were being diagnosed with mysterious illnesses. Soldiers were being diagnosed with cancer, COPD, allergies, asthma, rare blood disorders, leukemia. There's nothing the military would have done to cause you cancer. Soldiers were being denied VA, service-connected disability, and health care. Well, you know, Saudis are different than us over there. They don't have a waste management system like we have over here. Like, they might burn some, small items, things that they didn't need, maybe some leftover food. It's not a big deal. Hear ye, hear ye. On 10 August 2022, the President of the United States, Staff Sergeant First Class Heath Robinson, honoring our promise to address comprehensive toxics, PACT Act Law 117-168. The PACT Act will deliver benefits and services to more than 5 million veterans across all generations who may have been impacted by toxic exposures while serving our country. This includes burn pits, Camp Jack was a burn pit. We live on a burn pit. Do you understand what I'm telling you? We live on a burn pit. They knew. They knew. The Army taught me everything I needed to know to survive. But they forgot to teach me how to live on the burn pit. What's that smell?
So this has been a wonderful experience. I've never done anything as a veteran besides go to my children's school and on Veterans Day stand up when they said, "Are you a veteran?" So when we first started talking about telling our stories, of course I'm a million, but I chose the one I chose because I wanted to be safe, and that's the truth. And I told my sister, I'm going to tell a safe story. So I told her what it was, and she goes, "What do you mean by safe? That doesn't sound safe." I'm like, "Oh, well, compared to like a whole bunch of other stories." So that was my process.
Olivia and Ariana were just terrific. They steered us, but we made our own decisions what we wanted to tell, but they steered us in the right direction. And I like to get involved with everything military, and that's why I signed up. And as we went along, we got 7 good friends. It was a great experience, even though I hate being on Zoom. I was born 40 years too early. But anyhow, it really was interesting. And I look forward to going over my stuff. And they just did a great job, and I'm very appreciative.
So I started out with this one because I was going for a safe one at first. And when I think of my time in Korea, I tend to think about when I went to Hong Kong, and it's been 30 years, but I always think, I met a man from New Zealand once, and I always thought that would be the beginning of his life, So I decided I was telling that, and then I timed myself, and I was like, well, that's not long enough. But also, I think it was it Ariana, where you know what you said, to take, or maybe Olivia, to take a risk, I thought about that, and, my military story, of course, isn't just being in Hong Kong. That was a fun 3 days. I mean, it was a break from Korea, I'm here to tell you. If you've ever been in another country, it's not the same thing I was just visiting another country, but they know, when you're in the military and they're speaking another language, although they can speak English, it's certainly better than I spoke Korean. The food was different, just the whole atmosphere, being on post and pretty much staying there unless you had permission to leave, and it was very different. But I did decide to take a chance and go a little bit more into my total story, the process that I went through at the beginning of the military. I really did have a lot of doubt when then. But it was always something that I wanted. Obviously, at 4 years old, I'm just looking at the gun. I don't know. But anyway, they really, Olivia and Ariana have just been fantastic, and Barack and everyone involved, I appreciate it.
Thank you, all of you, for being vulnerable. I know that this wasn't, always the easiest thing necessarily to kind of be in this creative space, and we were like with the timers on Zoom, like 5 minutes. But can anyone share, or willing to share maybe a challenge a big challenge that you overcame, or anybody wants to share a particularly successful moment for them in this process, the story-writing process, or the performance process?
I would just like to start out by thanking each and every one of you for sharing your stories. You definitely surprised me and balanced my energy, and this was a fantastic event that we don't see or hear every day. And it's just wonderful to hear your experiences and to hear how you made it through that, and to see where you are today, and to be inspired by your education that you took from it. So I'm just inspired and grateful and thankful. And I love my neighbor. And just wanted to thank you all for participating and for having us.
Savannah, I'm so very proud of you. All of you ladies for taking the risk, as the young lady said here. As a veteran myself, it's so great to be able to hear that others have a voice. And it's so important as females that we work together to share and to have a voice in this world that we live in. So a big, huge applause for all of you.
So I was completely blown away and entertained. I want to say that I'm proud of my baby sister, Cindy. But my question is, did the storytellers find you all, or did you find the storytellers?
So we put a call out through our social media, through outreach and engagement with veterans across the region, and said, come join us, come learn how to share your story. And it just so happened we only have so many slots that we can fill. And it just so happened that the first ones to register are sitting here on the stage tonight, and they all happen to be women veterans. So
You choose a story, and then you realize there are so many perspectives you can take on that same story. And I'm so grateful for my sister, who's my sounding board. She heard the story a whole bunch of times, and I twisted it a little bit each time. So that was a difficult part, was taking perspective within the time frame.
So I'm very shocked. And the significance, when I look at the time these incidents happened, which would have been 1991, and now here we are in 2023, and the law for the PACT Act was not signed until 2022. So to me, that was such a significance, because you had soldiers, myself, and people I know and care about, going through mysterious illnesses for years and being told, well, it's not us, it's just you. And then here we are several years later. So to me, it was such a big deal to choose this particular topic. And I'm not sure if you noticed, but I gave you 1.5 years of my life in 10 minutes. I took you from the day I arrived in basic until I came back from the war, and then a little bit after that. So this topic was important because, as I've been told several times, the PACT Act, this is a big deal. And this is new, this is happening now. So it wasn't hard for me to pick it. But it was interesting. It was like reliving it, is what I went through.
Well, thank you again for joining us. Follow us on social media, join our mailing list, please, and have a wonderful rest of your Women's Veterans Day.
Yeah, and thanks for coming out tonight, ladies.
Yes.